on being in Morya Federation. And so, yes, I am a graduate of the Morya Federation Quest Universal program. And, oh, yes, Morya Federation Quest Universal 5-year program, and I was in there for the 5 years from 2010 to 2014. And after doing the 5-year program, you have the option to do a final project, which gives you a PhD or Doctor of Philosophy in Esotericism degree. And that means you have the option to do like a thesis or a paper or other project. I did that the year after, in the year 2015, and my final project was the esoteric astrology features in the astrology program Astrolog. And then, as you said, there is also the opportunity to be, if you are so inspired, to be a faculty advisor or a mentor to other students. And there's, of course, a need for help, and this is a group endeavor. And I started as an advisor in my second year of Quest Universal, where I could assist first-year Quest Universal students in their studies. So yes, this is the important point, that even if you are still a student doesn't mean you can't help with teaching. And of course, even if you are a teacher, that doesn't mean you ever stop being a student. So yeah, Morya Federation, it aligns with these groundbreaking new energies, and that Morya Federation was Michael described as being preparatory to the future preparatory and later advanced schools as described in the blue books. And so here's an example of the certificate you receive on having completed the 5-year Quest Universal program. And here's the diploma that I received in 2015. And then later, here is the degree, the Doctor of Philosophy and Esotericism degree, that was received after having completed the thesis or final project, and that was received in 2017. And here I am at the previous Ray 1 conference in 2017, receiving that certificate from Michael Robbins. So that's the fun part, but of course it should be said that Morya Federation is a demanding program. And it is challenging, but definitely rewarding. Like, I liken being in Morya Federation kind of like having a personal trainer for physical exercise. In other words, you can study esotericism by yourself and in your own ways, in your own timing, but it does help to have the structure and the rhythm and the interaction with peers or the group dynamics of an organization like Morya Federation. And yes, because of this, some drop out, and they try it out, but they quit after a few months, or don't make it all the way through. And that's not to make you scared of the program, but it is important to be realistic about the expectations and disciplined in one's approach to it. So here's what Michael Robbins described on MoryaFederation.com about this program. He said, "Demanding work is necessary for group approach to the inner ashram. The school work will necessarily be demanding, but will have its spiritual compensations. As Master DK tells us with characteristic understatement, the path of discipleship is not an easy one, but its compensations are adequate. There really can be no escape from a strenuous program, but hopefully a joyful one. The Morya Federation is, minimally, a school for discipleship training. It is not a school for those who seek to avoid the hard work of training the personality to become an instrument of the soul. Such well-meaning people, the enthusiastic but inconstant aspirants of the world, are emotionally focused and too dependent on how they feel, thus guaranteeing instability. In fact, the true future preparatory schools of meditation, which the Morya Federation and affiliated schools seek to anticipate, will be fundamentally for those students who are treading the path of probationary initiation." And so yes, the Morya Federation does promote group work, but also self, capital S, capital S self-development. So we have in the school had some recent issues with like plagiarism and the development of AI, and so it should be reinforced that when you are in Morya Federation, the content in your meditation study and service reports and the dark half of your papers, those should of course be in your own words, and don't copy content from other sources without indicating the source used. And of course it should be obvious, but artificial intelligence, tools like ChatGPT should not be used to write your papers or refine them. So it's kind of like climbing Mount Everest. Do you want to climb Mount Everest yourself, or do you just want to have like an airplane drop you on the top, or even worse, like say send people an AI generated video of yourself standing on the top of Mount Everest and then post it on Instagram. It's like, ooh, here's me on top of Mount Everest. Anyway, so yes, and we can also something to contemplate. We should ask ourselves: is there a need to, for example, learn art or be creative ourselves anymore when AI can quickly copy and simulate the output of all famous artists? So contemplate that. So anyway, it is in summary that it is case that students in Morya Federation are expected to have enrolled and be there because they want to learn, and that relying on these external tools or other people undermines the process and denies one the opportunity to develop appropriately. So I will conclude with these words from the Buddha's last sermon, and he said that those who shall be a lamp unto themselves, relying upon themselves only, and not relying upon any external help, it is they, Ananda, among my bhikshus, who shall reach the very topmost height. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter, for that sharing. And we have the next panelist we would like to hear from is Francis.
Hey, everyone. I'm going to take a little different tact, more just to my subjective experience about coming into awareness of the Blue Books and then how that led me to the Morya Federation. So over 50 years ago, while visiting my brother in northern New Mexico, he mentioned that he was going to visit his guru that afternoon. I was thunderstruck that my boots and Levi's socially conservative forest ranger brother had a guru, and asked if I could tag along. So after driving north to a remote spot, we walked to a clearing in the woods where we sat to meditate and receive a spiritual teaching. It was such a powerful experience for me that a few months after my return to Florida, I felt compelled to wrap up my associations there and moved to northern New Mexico, where I joined a group that met twice weekly with the initiate and spiritual artist. His name was Herman Rednick, who was my brother's teacher. What I remember most about these classes was the incredibly powerful presence that he and we, in combination, invoked during our time together. Our teacher's studio walls were covered with paintings of different masters, portraits of the Christ, white magicians, and other spiritual themes, as well as a bookshelf filled with spiritual writings, including all the Blue Books. Years later, I discovered that the lessons given in class were very, very much aligned with the Master Dualkul's teachings. So, skipping forward, after our teacher's death, a friend and I began what ended up being a 20-plus year project of reading and studying the Blue Books. And it was in those years that I once again began feeling that presence that I had felt with my teacher in class. At that time, I made a living as an artist, painting mostly landscapes, but most mornings I would spend at a local cafe drinking coffee and reading the Blue Books. Then once a week, my friend Scott and I would study late into the night, sometimes all night, We would make diagrams, try to figure out the meanings of the old commentaries, and just marvel at the teachings. Then one day, Scott emailed me a link for a class being hosted by Michael Robbins, who I'd never heard of, called something like Acting as If, which comes from a teaching by DK suggesting that we act as if we had achieved some particular goal until it becomes a reality in our lives. This class eventually led me to the Morya Federation. So I joined the same year as BL, and we both became faculty advisors. BL and I also worked together on a number of webinar series, which are free, open to all, and available on the moryafederation.com. You could say they really are an adjunct, along with other offerings like those from Robert Borrell and Dwayne Carpenter, to the Morya Federation curriculum. So, excuse me, a quick word to new students. The Blue Books can seem daunting at first. I remember thinking that I would never understand what DK was talking about. But my experience has been that if you keep reading and studying, you will gradually align with DK's rhythm and writing style. And then amazing treasures await your discovery. Sometime after many years of reading these books, it dawned on me that even more important than the revelatory information they contained was the fact that reading these books gradually aligns one with the vibration of a master of wisdom. The Morya Federation is a guided, multi-tiered, support-filled portal into the vibratory realm of the Master Dual Kul. It takes discipline and commitment, but especially during these crucial years, can provide a way of consciously preparing the way for the amazing age that we stand on the threshold of. To this point, DK says, once there is a measure of nervous release from strain, and once the swing of the world movement has again stabilized, humanity will transcend itself. The spiritual values will emerge more clearly. The fact of the inner world will no longer be questioned, as man's increased sensitivity enables him to respond to the higher impression and the higher inspiration. His ability to live the vertical life of the spirit and the horizontal life of relationship will grow with each decade. Then the relation of life to form, of spirit to body, and of the soul to the personality will demonstrate in the realm of quality. And the quality of the immediate divine aspect, the Christ consciousness, will emerge in a manner undreamt of today by any of you, even the most advanced thinkers. So, thank you very much. Love to you all.
Thank you so much, Francis. You just described the school so beautifully, and your experience so appreciative of all your contributions to the school. Thank you so much. Okay, so next we have Eva Smith, another wonderful faculty member. Are you ready, Eva?
There we go. Can you hear me okay? Can you see me okay? Oh, there we go.
Yes,
Okay.
and yes.
Okay, so hi everybody. And so we were just asked to speak about Morya Federation without really guiding us if it's going to be personal or if it's going to be about the school. So there might be some overlap, and that is okay because each one of us is going to deliver it in a different way. And you're going to get our personal perspectives on the school. And so it's okay that if we talk about the same things. So what I've talked a little bit about is the school itself, which has already been covered so well by BL and Tuya. The Morya Federation, as you may know by now, is an international esoteric school, and its faculty members and students represent, can you believe, 25 countries in North and South America, in Africa, in Europe, in South Asia, Australia, and even New Zealand. So it is an internet expression of the University of the Seven Rays, and that's where I've had all my experiences, which I'm willing to share with you later on. But it is, Morya Federation is a nonprofit, tax-exempt, educational 501c3 organization. We are supported financially by the voluntary contributions of our students and benefactors. There is no established fee for the students. Each student has to decide for themselves what they are able to give. So our campus resides on the internet, and students here can access all resources that are needed for successful learning and a rewarding spiritual quest. That spiritual quest is used in so many different ways because our courses all have the word spiritual quest somewhere in there. So it is a spiritual quest so that we can have an experience in that area. So the campus is a hub website where students find course schedules, prescribed coursework, and learning materials, plus forums where the students post their learnings and their papers so that other students who are taking similar courses have access to all the postings for everybody's comments or learnings that they are posting that particular month. So you're not alone in this. You share your work if people are interested in reading other people's papers and responses. All of that is available. So it is the center of our community of learners who are embarked on this most life-changing adventure, this spiritual quest. The campus website is technically a state-of-the-art, at least it was when it was first established. But we complement this with a capability of providing our students with a personal touch. Indeed, every student receives a personal contact and support through our mentors and advisors, who are faculty members assigned to specific students and who act as liaisons between the student and the school. So these students can, if they wish, contact their mentors personally on an email, if so they wish, to discuss something that they don't want to be posted and for everyone to see. This personal touch greatly enhances the quality of our students' learning experiences and accelerating learning. We offer a variety of programs, as Bia has mentioned, to suit the students at various levels of expertise and time availability. We accommodate many types of students, such as those who prefer to take, for example, the whole comprehensive esoteric study program, which is the 5-year program that Walter talked about, to learn how to meditate by taking part in a structured meditation course, to attend internet group meditations at the time of the full moon, which is the spiritual festivals, and to learn by watching internet-based courses live or pre-recorded. So we attract students at all levels of knowledge. We accommodate individuals who have very little time to devote to their esoteric education, all the way to those who are able to devote a significant amount of time. And as has been said, the curriculum is all based on the Blue Books written by Alice Bailey. Our goal is to help create soul-illumined servers of humanity, servers inspired by love, by spiritual will, and spiritual intelligence. So we've covered the 3 aspects here, love, will, and intelligence. They can cooperate in establishing the new culture and civilization of the long-awaited age of Aquarius. Students show a continued and deepening thought process that provides insights and direction into the world of meaning behind the world of outer appearances. As these students continue to grow, they develop a sense of justice and right human relations, which are indications of ongoing soul integration and alignment. When the school started, it had a very strict curriculum, just like any university. And I remember discussing this with Michael and saying, Michael, this is too hard. I'm sorry for all these dings. I said, Michael, this is too hard. People have lives. He says, no, we've got to stick to a university schedule, and it's going to be a university-like school. So as time progressed, and it became obvious that it was too difficult for a lot of students to maintain the heavy curriculum, we had to accommodate the students' needs and allowing for much more moderation in the schedule. So we allowed then for half-year students, for self-pacing students, for part-time involvement. So the school system or the school schedule can be self-paced depending on one's time and commitment. So as Frances said, it shouldn't be totally overwhelming for those that can't figure out how they're going to accommodate all of the work that is necessary. We have made allowances for all of that. And Michael relaxed about all of that. He became very aware that in order not to lose a lot of students, and we want to impress students with this knowledge, because this is where it's at as far as we're concerned, we had to learn to accommodate them. So on a personal note, I was fortunate to be asked to contribute to its curriculum. I was there at its inception because I had, in 1987, I think, I started with Michael, and I had done with him his teachings on the master's course. Then later on, it became the PhD course that we did in California, in San Diego. And then in the meantime, I had started my own school here in Toronto with my sister as a partner. And the proceeds that we made from the school, we donated all the time to University of the Seven Rays. So I had quite a bit of background by that time. And Michael had already started an online school system of some sorts, which didn't go over all that well. So when the time came to actually start the school called Morya Federation, I was fortunate enough to be asked to help create curricula. And there was a team of us that spent a lot of time in creating questions depending on the subject matter. And of course, Michael Robbins had the last word on everything that we created. And I still have in my computer my original questions that I had created with a little bit of adjustment that he did on some of them. But in any case, I was honored, and I am very happy that it's still being used to this day. And so to watch students grow in spiritual development is the most gratifying work that we as faculty can do. It makes my heart sing when I see the progression in people's psyche and in people's soul contact. It's our way of giving back to humanity, of serving, because what we do is gratis. We don't get paid for what we do. It's totally a service. But to be immersed in the teachings, is life-changing, as it was for me when Michael in 1987, I think it was, or 88, came to Toronto with Dot Maver, Marianne Castellino, and himself, and gave us 5 days of the Seven Rays, the study of the Seven Rays workshop. I had already finished reading his volumes of Tapestry of the Gods, which blew my mind as it was. And this 5 day immersion into the Seven Rays changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. I started to recognize myself as a soul, and the soul was speaking to me. And prior to that, it never had. So for me, it was life-changing. And the Seven Rays have always been such a love for me that for my PhD thesis, I wrote how to teach the Seven Rays. I wrote a whole manual on that. No, that was for master's. The thesis and the PhD was on the um, the various levels of consciousness. Anyway, so that's my contribution to what I wanted to say. If there are any questions, and if I have time, I'm open to that.
Thank you so much, Eva. We will have questions and answers at the end of everyone's turn. And I will also think it would be great to read some of the comments as well. So what do you think, Walter? Should we keep going on, or should we have time for comments now?
It's probably best to keep going and put all the comments at the end, would be my
Okay.
recommendation.
Well, thank you, Eva. It's great to hear the history and the stories behind what brought you into the school and the work, and it's wonderful to hear how it all came together. And I know many of us would say, at least I can, that I would not be here right now if it were not for the Morya Federation School training. So next up is a wonderful coworker, Jeff Logie. Are you ready? He is here from New Zealand today. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm tuning into you from New Zealand. About an hour ago, the sun rose, and I can report it's a glorious day here. I'm not going to cover the ground that's already been spoken of. I'll try to take this from a different tack, actually. My own particular thrust within the Morya Federation is the development of a spiritual community and the bonds of our connections as souls, and the recognition of those, and of course the fostering of those that are coming in new to this. And this really goes back to, I think, in terms of my own introduction to theosophy as a teenager. And I was fortunate enough when I was a young guy to rent a little shack on the beach. And across from the road from where I lived, there was a theosophical community of about, I don't know, maybe 15 elderly theosophists. And so I was very fortunate to skip across the road more than once a week, probably 5 or 6 times in a week, and spend hours in conversation with these wonderful old wise souls who had particularly, I would say, very ordinary lives, but their consciousness kind of soared in that realm of soul awareness, and they really made their time fully available to any kind of conversation that was related to theosophy. After a couple of years, I kind of got restless, and I needed to travel a bit around New Zealand. And I remember heading off down into the South Island, and I arrived in this small city called Dunedin. It's a kind of a big, bleak place, and I was out of money, nowhere to stay. I had to find a job. So I rented this little place up in one of the main streets there, and found myself a job. And I remember walking out and walking down the street to the supermarket to buy some food, and three doors down was the Theosophical Society. And I think that was the first time a real sense of being guided in as a life theme really struck me. And of course, I entered into this lodge there, and they're all very unique, as you will, those of you who have passed through this organization know, very unique in the way they function. But the common theme is just the sense of camaraderie and brotherhood amongst the people who attend these things. And in that time that I was there, I was invited to join the ES section, this kind of inner thing where they introduce you to this idea of the masters, and possibly in a more intimate setting in terms of a meditative approach that was conducted there. I have to admit, it wasn't my scene as such. I'm not a devotee, and it's not something that I pursued, but it did direct me further into broadening my scope and understanding of the teachings in a more impersonal way. And that's how I kind of progressed, really. And it's really through these connections of these theosophists, the early theosophists. A lot of them that I met in those days were in their 80s and 90s. I remember Jeffrey Hodson, who lived at the other end of the island where I was at that time. And when I found that, I remember packing up the car and just moving north. And one of the first things I did in arriving in the place where he lived was knocking on the door and saying, I'm here to join your class. I hear a meditation class. And what a wonderful character, so available, in classic theosophical form, making their time available to any student that was willing to put in the effort, And of course, he died probably maybe 6 years later, and I kind of floundered a bit from that in a sense of grief. And then I found my way into a Bailey group. And of course, this was just fantastic because most of the theosophists that I were attracted to were those that had studied Bailey. And we would meet at least 3, sometimes 4 times, sometimes more if there was a full moon meeting a week, and enter into the study of astrology, psychology, and of course, Dina too, and exploring the meditative work that Tibetan had presented. I did consider joining the arcane school, and it sort of held off. I felt that the impersonal nature in which the interactions with the secretaries was not a particular path that was set out for myself. And of course, when I entered into friendships with the Seven Ray Institute, and of course Michael and all the many other wonderful souls, and it was a more the experiment of more personal interactions began really. And of course, there's a good and bad side to both of these things. It's not an easy pathway, but I think we worked our way through a lot of the early fires of group interactions and knocked ourselves into a shape to the point that when we started the Morya Federation, when that evolved as a new experiment in terms of group relations, when that began, I think we were more in a position to manage what was to come across the doorway in terms of students coming in. And I have to say, it's very much at least for myself, I know it is for the others, very much a personal, interactive setting that we're involved in, and we're there together for each other. That's probably one of the strongest bonds or qualities that holds the Morya Federation together in quite a tight group. So that's probably the emphasis that I would like to leave on and come back if there's any questions, friends. But anyway, thank you. I'll hand you back there, Jessica.
Thank you, Jeff, so much. It was your encouragement in a cafe in Auckland that I joined the Morya Federation, and it was because of that I'm here. So it's wonderful how things just pay themselves forward, and how your journey has led to my journey, and that we're all connected. And I agree, it is an intimate experience.
Yeah, well, I remember that well, Jessica, and it's not something I would do really. I'm very, very tentative about making any of these kind of suggestions to someone, but
it wasn't instructive. It was suggestive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Suggestive is what I'd like to think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
But I just
absolutely.
thought, this girl's made for the stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm very delighted to introduce our next panelist, Jocelyn Traub, also from Canada today. So welcome, Jocelyn.
Well, thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be sharing my experience with Master DK's teachings. I studied the Blue Books by myself for many years, and it was a wonderful day in Montreal in 1976 when I met other DK students who lived in Montreal. The Morya Federation did not exist at that time, so we studied together in a small group. And actually, one of those people that I met in Montreal at that time was Dwayne Carpenter. And we used to meet small group at his house to meditate. And already he had all kinds of technologies to twirl egoic lotuses and so on. So it was an experience that I'll never forget. And I'm most grateful to Dwayne for his being so open to sharing his house with us. So for myself, I discovered the Alice Bailey books when I was 27 years old. And immediately I became an avid student. I found two Bailey books in a secondhand bookstore in Montreal. And these books were Esoteric Psychology, Astrology, and Treatise on Cosmic Fire. Wow. Two of the most demanding Bailey books. So obviously, and not surprisingly, I understood very little when I first encountered these books, but I kept at it. I kept reading, sensing that somehow, if I kept going, I would discover a treasure. And I did. I did. It was wonderful to discover those teachings because for many years, I had been thinking about questions about the universe and life and all of this, and I could never find any explanation that was comprehensive and rigorous, such as what we get when we read Master DK. So the sense of finding a treasure and then being so attracted to the teachings and to pursuing, to keeping at it and working at trying to learn something, that has been life-changing for me, and I see it as a great privilege. So the what moves me after all these years, as I reflect on all my experiences and awakenings with Master DK. And what moves me after all these years is the vision of relationship. And this theme, relationship, runs through everything that DK teaches. The powerful central idea that nothing in this universe is truly isolated is among DK's key messages. We learn that all forms of life are related, from the smallest mineral to the largest galaxy. And the great universal picture that the teachings paint for us is that every life is part of a greater life, which in turn is part of a still greater life. So the teachings present us with the greatest tapestry of interrelationships that link all lives that exist in the universe. So this is a beautiful vision to contemplate, and it changes how we look at things. We look differently at stars, at the earth, at the person sitting next to us, at all creatures great and small. It opens us to experiencing a sense of awe. And this is how I summarize how I feel when I encounter the teachings after all this time. I still feel a tremendous sense of awe at what Master DK has given us, the teachings, the precious teachings that he's given us. Overall, then, what has been most meaningful for me is the experience of belonging to a world that is purposeful, beneficent, and genuinely magical. So my association with DK teachings, with the USR and the Morya Federation, has added tremendous value and joy to my life. I've been on faculty now for over 12 years, and I'm still happy to be a student. Thank you.
How wonderful, Jocelyn. Oh, you have been such a long time with us, and so I appreciate you so much and what you've just shared. It's so meaningful to have you here. Thank you. Very,
Thank
very.
you.
And now we will move into introducing, as Tuya kindly pointed out, Robert Burrell, who is also a wonderful faculty member contributing to our community and through his webinars. So welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Greetings to all of you again. Mikhail, could we put up the first slide, please? Thank you. All right. So I'm an adjunct faculty member of the Morya Federation, and I offer webinars for those who are interested. I told Tuya I might run over time a little bit, and she replied, "No worries." Dangerous words to say to a Virgo sun, but I don't think it'll take that long. Excuse me. Master DK tells us that the return of the world teacher is imminent. Michael and I used to speculate perhaps as soon as the next century. The Master tells us that the coming one will restore the mysteries of initiation and found the new world religion. The Tibetan says, "We are also visioning a new and vital world religion, a universal faith which will have its roots in the past, but which will make clear the new dawning beauty and the coming vital revelation." Reappearance of the Christ, 149. Slide 2, please. My life purpose this incarnation is to prepare the way for the coming world teacher by introducing humanity to 4 keynotes of the New World religion. Take a little time to look this over and just get the general lay of the land. Okay. As it says above, each of these keynotes has both an exoteric and an esoteric aspect. I decided to help the new student by beginning with a more familiar exoteric aspect, such as the near-death experience, and then show its similarity to a more esoteric aspect, such as the esoteric process of dying. The 2 aspects for death, rebirth, and religion were obvious to me. But when it came to initiation, I only had the esoteric aspect, my 900-page compilation on initiation from the books of DK and Alice Bailey. Twice in the rays and the initiations, the Tibetan asked for a compilation on initiation for disciples who were in training for an initiation. So I created one. He had also asked for a compilation on death and a treatise on cosmic fire, which I also did. So I chose the 4 lower indented titles and books as the exoteric aspect of initiation. I met Marilyn Ferguson and her colleagues at the 3-day Power of Knowing seminar in Dallas in 1983. Sheldon Hughes was also there, but we didn't know each other at the time. Afterwards, I stayed in touch with Marilyn and sent her a copy of Death the Great Adventure, which she gratefully acknowledged the receipt of. Her 4 stages of transformation are spot on. I suspect that many of you have gone through some, if not all of them. I didn't know mythologist Joseph Campbell, but a very good friend of mine did, and she used to tell me stories about their time together. He is the one who said, "Follow your bliss." DK tells us that the personality experiences happiness, the soul experiences joy, and the monad experiences bliss. So follow your bliss is anything but a blissful path as we try to achieve the third initiation, our first contact with the monad. Evelyn Underhill passed within in 1941, so I did not know her, but I had a very strong intuition that her seminal book, Mysticism, might be a good exoteric aspect of initiation fire from heaven. Here's a little aside. With a BA in English, I know that a preposition is not normally capitalized in a title, but I decided that from was just as important as the other three words: initiation, fire, and heaven. Change the preposition and you get a totally different meaning. Besides, I abbreviate Death the Great Adventure as all caps DTGA. So I wanted to be able to abbreviate Initiation Fire from Heaven as all caps IFFH. My title, my caps. It turned out that Underhill's 5 stages of the Mystic Way directly corresponded to the first 5 initiations of the Christian tradition. I had the good fortune of spending an afternoon and night in the home of Manly and Marie Hall in 1987. 3 of us were traveling with Marie's sister, Helen Burmester, author of The Seven Rays Made Visual. The next morning, we met Manly at his center in Los Angeles, the Philosophical Research Society. He gave us the grand tour of PRS. Manly was one of the foremost philosophers, esotericists, speakers, and authors in LA during most of the 20th century. Since last year was a 9 year, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, and since 9 is the number of initiation along with 11, I offered the 17-part video series Initiation Fire from Heaven through the Morya Federation. Last November, we began a webinar that covers all 4 of the keynotes and spans 38 one-hour videos. Walter and Jessica have been 2 of my most constant companions on this journey. So Jessica has agreed to share a little of her experience with these 2 webinars. Jessica, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Robert. I wanted to say that one of the things I appreciate about your webinars series, both the Initiation Fire from Heaven and 4 Keynotes of the New World Religion, is you present it like a meditation. And it's a group meditation. And I felt the soul nature of the group emphasized at greater and greater levels, so that it raised the vibration of the group, and it does do that each time I attend. And your dedication and your passion and your hard lifetime of works put into a cohesive and comprehensive teaching is a wonderful way to absorb the information through in a meditative way, so that we come away feeling inspired and closer to our soul nature. So that's what I've felt and experienced. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for sharing that. Can we have slide 3, please? To find my videos, on the 4 keynotes, go to the macara.us homepage. Slide 4, please. Then scroll down to the 3rd section, Morya Federation Webinars. You can see my name at the bottom. Slide 5. Now you can see all of the keynotes. I would definitely begin with my 17-minute introduction to all of the keynotes titled 4 Keynotes of the New World Religion, and then proceed down the list in order. Slide 6, please. Again, another wonderful illustration created by our modern Renaissance man, Francis Donald. Mikhail, just leave this image up for a bit until I ask you to start the video clip. My work on the 7 Rays series, such as the first ray, which I shared yesterday, was an outlier, a tribute for Michael that I quickly put together in a simpler format of passages that have to be read by the viewer with some accompanying illustrations. The format for my life's work with the 4 keynotes consists of me reading all the passages and illustrating each passage, often with numerous images on one slide. The last class we covered in the webinar before the conference was part 1 of Mystery Schools, Past and Future. There are 7 more videos in this section. I want to give you a sense of part 1, so here is the first 3 minutes. I hope you can join us Sunday, May 10th for part 2. We live on the edge of the grid in Ojai, California, and sometimes experience temporary loss of our internet connection. So I get Mikhail to project my slides and video. Okay, brother, let's show the video clip.
Mystery Schools, Past and Future. One, the mysteries. The following passages are either direct quotes or a close paraphrase of the source material. In his book, The Ancient Mysteries, a Source Book, Marvin Meyer writes that the word mystery, mysterion in Greek, derives from the Greek verb miein, to close, referring to the closing of the lips or the eyes. The closed character of the mysteries may be interpreted in 2 ways. First of all, a mystes, an initiate, plural, mystai, into the mysterion, was required to keep his or her lips closed and not divulge the secret that was revealed at the private ceremony. Vows of silence were meant to ensure that the initiate would keep the holy secrets from being revealed to outsiders. Most mystai observe their pledge of secrecy, and as a result, we possess little information about the central features of the mysteries. A second way to interpret the closed nature of the mysteries relates to the closing and the opening of the eyes. Closed eyes brought darkness to the prospective initiate, both literally and metaphorically. And the opening of the eyes was an act of enlightenment. By opening his eyes, the initiate saw the light. This is sometimes described as being reborn. Nocturnal initiatory ceremonies, with flickering torches accentuating the contrast between light and darkness, made the primal experience of enlightenment that much more vivid to the eyes and the emotions. If the experience of seeing was primary in the mystery religions, it may be anticipated that much visual imagery is to be discovered in text describing these ceremonies. Such is in fact the case. For example, one of the priests in the mysteries was termed a hierophant, one who shows sacred things.
Okay. Let me see. Yeah, we're on. So we haven't even gotten to Leadbeater or Manly Hall. As I say, there's 8 one-hour videos in this section on mystery schools past and future. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you again for your valuable time and attention, and special thanks to Jessica, Walter, Mikhail, Tuya, and the Morya Federation.
Thank you, Robert. Wonderful. So blessed to be well versed in your work and what's on offer. And in additional to what Robert offers, we would like to go over some of the programs that are available here at associated with Morya Federation and University of Seven Rays and Seven Ray Institute. And we are just going to run through those for you. Go ahead, Walter.
To begin, full moon, new moon, ingress meditations. Rhythmic approaches to the periods of the new and full moons, wherein certain great approaches will be made to the world of reality, aligning with the inner meditative groups when all the members of all ashrams are meditating together and making the impact on the world disciples and aspirants.
Yes, and Blue Rose Sisterhood. And in this group, the members are committed to nurture, expand, and deepen the Christ consciousness in preparation for the hierarchical conclave of 2025, and now to prepare to start a mission as a group from 2026 onwards. Then we have the Esoteric United Nations group, which meets, it was established by the impulse of the last 7 years cycle behind the UN to invoke the soul of the nations and countries and help manifest soul qualities and establish right human relations around the planet. Establishing the way of loving kindness, this group meets once a month near the new moon, most months.
12 Heartbeats of Peace meditation. A group daily meditation in 8 minutes of silence to stand in massed intent of invoking the presence of the hierarchy and demanding the divine intervention by the army of the Christ to help humanity in present world crises. And cosmic astrology, a scientific method within group work to bring esoteric astrology and meditation together during the 12 Heartbeats of Peace meditation. For deeper discussions, we have created a WhatsApp group titled Standing on the Platform of the Train Station of Destiny.
And we have Dwayne Carpenter's webinar, Awakening the Higher Mind Through Intuition, which is the second Saturday of each month. And this primary objective is to awaken the higher mind and the intuition and lead the student to an expansion of consciousness or changes in the inner sheaths or spiritual bodies, and to bring fragmented and isolated parts together in a more organic and intuitive whole.
Another web series, Light of the Soul. This series moves beyond theoretical philosophy to present Raja Yoga as a practical step-by-step method for spiritual evolution, a graded system of development designed to bring the soul into full conscious expression through the physical brain. This is an in-depth, open discussion style exploration of the only co-authored work between Alice Bailey and the Master DK.
Francis Donald.
And then also Secret Doctrine series by Francis Donald, focusing on volume 1 of the Secret Doctrine, the ancient writings of the book of Giảng, describing the passage from the formless realms of pure being to the manifested universe in all its diversity.
Yes, and then in 2026, we have already introduced the Esoteric World Cafe, which we will also have on Saturday the 2nd. And the format is that we gather informally to build relationships and community and to share insights and impressions and, have a hot drink or beverage of some kind and a little bit of a snack and just join together. And then we also are developing this, are going to offer the Scientific Living, which is a study discussion group based on scientific living through methods such as esoteric astrology. And then we will also be offering Group Progress, which is a group study and discussion group to discuss how to raise group consciousness and group work so that we can make the first initiation, humanity can make the first initiation. And then Tuya, these are all with Tuya, and then Tuya will be offering an Angels and Devas presentation to highlight her expertise and her knowledge of that area of study. So that concludes our summary. So we'll now introduce a short video that where you can meet and get to know the Vietnamese group of students, an amazing group of dedicated students. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. On behalf of Blumkit, I will present the report of Vietnam branch for 2025. A little history. In 2015, at the advice of Michael Robbins and Leonie, they suggested to Vietnamese students at the Morya Federation Vietnam to translate the MQ program into Vietnamese, and this was to establish the Vietnamese branch. So the lessons were translated over 6 to 7 months, and the Vietnamese MQ program began enrolling students in December 2015. In 2016, the program expanded to include the Great Quest, and in 2019, it began enrolling students in Quest Universal. And some numbers, since 2015, there have been 271 enrollment applications, and some students dropped out after a few months, and some complete the MQ program, and a small number have continued up to today. At present, there are 55 enrolled students across 3 programs, 24 in MQ, 21 in GQ, and 10 in Quest Universal. This chart shows the number of applications by year. And we have a total of 5 mentors. 4 of them support the MQ and GQ programs. These 4 mentors are currently students at the Quest Universal Year 2 and 3. And so how the students come to know of us? First of all, it's from our websites. We have 2 websites to attract students to the school. The first website is the minhthietmoi.org. The name of the website means Ageless Wisdom. It was established in 2014, and it features articles on esoteric topics. And the second website is minhthietmoi.com. So this website is an online library for students. It contains advanced material in occultism. And now we provide Vietnamese translation of Michael Robbins' commentaries on white magic, on cosmic fire, antagrana, and others topics. Yeah. So the translations are presented in bilingual format. So the students can read the original text and alongside the Vietnamese translation. And this is YouTube channel of Morya Medicine of Vietnam students. Yeah. So the second channel is through the current and former students. The students introduce the school to their friends and relatives. So how we link students together? We have since 2023, the conference has been held in Hanoi and in Saigon. The conference lasts 3 days, so it provides an opportunity for students to meet in person. And we also have the weekly meeting for group study and for meditation. And we have the monthly meeting at the full moon, so students attend the meeting online. Here are some photos from the conference over the past 2 years. Yeah, thank you for listening. And then now I would like to play a short video from Vietnamese group. They want to say hello to all of you. So let me share the, yeah, okay. Can you hear the sound?
No sound, Tuan. You might have to push share sound when you do share.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello from Vietnam.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you, everyone.